Hey, what's good? Today we're going to make a beat for Iann Dior. We're going to be using one of my samples from my sample pack. If you want that sample pack, you can go onto my website and you can purchase it. There's over 100 loops, there's 75 instrumental compositions, and then there's like 31 drum loops, like top loops. So it's a really dope pack. It genuinely is really good, and it's priced pretty well as well. It's only $29.99. So if you want to go grab that, definitely go to my website, which is produced by Cillian, Prod by Cillian.beatstars.com. Alright, so let's get into it. Okay, so let's bring in a melody. So I've got one here for my loop kit. It's called Tokyo Nights. It's 158 BPM. So let's turn up the BPM here. There we go. And it sounds like this. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is there's this little thing right here, right? So that is perfect. I think that's a really important piece. A lot of the time I struggle with, you know, being overly creative or to the point where just it isn't working anymore. I'm just doing too much stuff. But this is kind of like one of these simple tricks that really does the job really well. What I'm doing is I'm taking the reverb from the sample. So the original sample had a lot of reverb on it. So when it reverbed out and I printed it, you've kind of got this little space on top, or space at the end of it. So I just took it here and I'm going to reverse it, right? This is an old trick. I'm sure a lot of you guys know this. But anyways, really underrated. So then you're just going to pump it up a little bit. Come on, love. Right, so you kind of got this nice little effect now. Right? And it leads right into your sample, really nice. Okay, so next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to work on some drums here. So let's get out our drums. So I group everything in Ableton, just kind of keep it all organized. So we're going to insert our clap. Also kind of important as well is the clap is currently right on the grid. I want to just slightly shift it over to the left so that it's off the grid. We want to make sure that the attack of the clap is hitting before the 9.3, as you can see on my screen, just right off the grid. So we're going to duplicate that for 9 bars. 8 bars, sorry. 8 bars. So let's go ahead. Now that we have our clap, let's choose our hi-hat. So I've got a couple that I really like here. So I'm going to play the beat while I choose my hi-hats. That's really important for me. Okay, that's perfect. Okay, so let's select our Genius hi-hat from Big White Beats sample pack. I really like his stuff. I definitely recommend that you go purchase it. It's not that expensive as well, and he's got like a bunch of really quality stuff. It's like 29 bucks a pack or something. So what I normally do is I start out with eighth notes, and then I build on top of it. So just like this, we're going to do our eighth notes, right? Okay. Right, so just like that. And let's copy and paste all of these over. Also, I don't know why, but I've done something to my Ableton where every time I paste something in, the velocity is really low. So. Okay, next I'm going to add my snare. Snare is really important. There's one that I really like. It's by Chef Pasquale, I believe it is. Oh, this actually might work. Yeah, that sounds cool. So let's add this rim by Chef Pasquale. Not sure how you say it. That's okay. So we're looking for, most importantly for me, is I'm looking for clarity, bounce, right? So those two things are really important to me. So I don't try and put a lot of perks in. I just, well, that's subjective, but hey, for me it's not a line. Also, what's really important I find is that each of the drums has a pitch, so you kind of want to try and figure out which pitch sounds the best. And what's interesting is I know that there's a lot of advice to keep your drums in tune, which I agree with, but there's also, it's interesting, sometimes when they're slightly off pitch, they can kind of give like a different vibe. Like sometimes there's, because it's off pitch, it causes like a sense of anxiety or a sense of like darkness, which is kind of interesting. So just like, I wouldn't say, I would just try a couple of things and always constantly use your ear to decide what is the best choice of, you know, what is the best choice. So I'm pasting 2 right here. Perfect. Okay, so let's copy and paste that over. And I really like that pattern. Super simple, but very effective, which is what I'm looking for. I'm really looking just to keep it simple, but also effective. So I'm just going to freeze this, which means I'm just going to print it out, save on some space for my CPU. Now I've noticed in the bottom right hand corner of my screen my master is clipping, so I'm going to turn that down. I know a lot of people like the sound of clipping, but for me I would rather do it in a way that adds, like I'd rather add a soft clipper and clip into my soft clipper, just to avoid any distortions. Because the thing is, when you're running your beats into the master, you're affecting how much dynamics you have. You're also affecting, interestingly, the pitch of your whole instrumental, because basically it squashes your track, right? And because everything is made of frequencies, when you squash those frequencies, it actually changes the frequencies as well. Like for example, here I'll show you what I'm talking about. If you have a kick, for example, let's just take any old kick. Right, let's just take this kick. So you've got this kick right here. Right, so you got a kick. Let's add a soft clipper to the kick. So I've got a soft clipper within my glue compressor. So here's the pitch of my kick. It's got a pitch. Let's just say, I'm not sure what note it is, but it's got a pitch. As you push the soft clipper, it's going to start to change. You're going to start to notice that the pitch of the kick is going to start to shift. To the point where now it's bringing out a lot of those high frequencies, and because it's squashing it, you've actually got a different pitch altogether. So, just important. Basically what I was trying to say was that if you're running all of your instruments and all of your tracks into the master while it's clipping, because it's clipping into the master, you don't really have as much control as you would have if you weren't running it into the master. If that wasn't confusing enough for you, then don't worry, stay tuned for more. So I'm going to add this perk as well. One last thing I want to add is like a shaker, some sort of a shake. See if I can get one up here. There's one that I really liked by Mally Rock. Oops, shaker. Perfect. Find a kick. There's a couple that I really like using. Where are they? Yeah, right here. So these ones are my favorite kicks. I use them honestly probably in every beat. Really like them. So I'm kind of looking for that bounce. So I space my kicks out quite a bit. So let's turn it a little bit. That sounds good. And then just to kind of repeat the cycle, I'm going to place another one right over here. Okay, so there's a nice bounce to it. Every perk has its own place in the mix. One thing that's really important for me is every drum shouldn't hit at the same time. There should be no drums that hit at the same time besides the hi-hats and anything else, because the hi-hats I just kind of keep consistent. But my trick with the hi-hats is that instead of giving them a lot of attack, I lower the attack and I give them quite a delayed attack. That way it technically is staying out of the way of every single hit, because the thing is, if all those transients are hitting at the same time, then it's really hard to push your master, I find. So I just kind of move them out of the way and kind of give it its own space, give it a clean and polished kind of feel. So let's go back to our hats and let's make them more interesting. That sounds really cool. I like that. So I'm going to repeat that pattern for these two bars right here. Perfect. So then that just needs another double. But what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to take these two right here I'm going to pitch them up just by 2. And add another one. Okay, that sounds really good. I really like that. So let's put that for both of our bars. Cool. And then we're just going to delete this one, and we're going to delete this one. Perfect. Okay, the last thing I want to do for these hi-hats is, like I said before, and I'm going to show you where you can adjust this. You go to your controls in your Ableton, and over here you have your attack, your decay, and your sustain. So what I want to do is I want to just hold shift and drag this one slowly, giving it more of a loose kind of feel. So now it's not as sharp, and anything else that's cutting through will cut through nicely. Plus, when I have sharp hi-hats, it's kind of harder to push them, but if you kind of have this softer hi-hat, you can really push it. I don't know, it's just a little bit wavier for me. So let's push the hi-hat. Okay, so I'm going to print. I'm going to freeze the track, and I'm going to print it. Last thing I want to do for all my drums is, because they're in a group, I'm going to join them all together. So I'm going to consolidate everything. And now that everything's nicely consolidated, what I can do is I can go over here and I can go to my grooves, and I'm going to select a groove. Now, once again, for me, I don't really go too overboard. It may be a lack of knowledge, but for me, I just find a really simple groove is what I'm looking for. So I'm going to go to my 8 swings, just like that. Very basic, and I'm going to click that in, and I'm going to commit to it. This is my favorite 808. It's called by Decap. It's really just like a fantastic 808. Yeah, I use it on almost everything. Honestly, it's given a lot of confidence for me, because now that's part of my sound. Is this one bass drum. So, for my 808s, quite simple, nothing too crazy. Looking for that bounce as well. So let's look for it. Let's see how this sounds. So I like that. Let's add a little bit more boom. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get out something called an R bass. Oops, type that in wrong. Okay, so I'm going to get out something called an R bass. This plugin is basically like an EQ, I think. It just kind of adds more bass frequencies where you want it. So let's go ahead and do that. Because the thing with a lot of my tracks is I've started writing in like C, A, B scales, and those 808s are harder to get boomy and kind of like really get those sub frequencies to come out. So yeah, it's been a bit of a challenge, but anyways. Okay, let's see how this sounds. Got to turn this up a little bit. And actually, sorry, I forgot to add a EQ to this one. For me, it's really important to add EQs to my instruments because I don't want a lot of high end there. I cut off at 1250 because vocals are going to go on top, and I want those to shine. And then also with respect to the sub frequencies, I want to cut those ones out so that my sub can cut through as well. So I've already got my auto filter on, so that's going to cut at 12.5 hertz. And then I'm going to do the same thing, add another auto filter, and I'm going to cut off probably around like 250 to 300, which is quite a considerable cut. But because the slope is so is not steep, it kind of has this more musical effect to it. Okay, so let's add our master chain. So my master chain is really basic. It's just a cutoff at 30 hertz and a cutoff at 18.5 hertz. I do sharp cutoffs for both because those are where I'm cutting off contains frequencies that I don't want. And as for cutting off at 30 frequencies, I've had a lot of criticism about not letting in those sub frequencies that people love. But for me, what happens is when I add a soft clipper, cutting off the way that I've done it actually allows me to push the soft clipper even further, and it brings out some of those sub frequencies anyways, because I'm adding the soft clipper after the EQ. If you add the soft clipper before the EQ, then that technique isn't going to work, because the EQ, where it's positioned in terms of your audio effects, actually makes a big difference. So let's give it a try. Is a limiter. My favorite limiter is the L2. I don't want to have any intersample peaking, so I'm bringing down my threshold to 0.2. So that just kind of gets just gives it a safe zone to play in. And then let's bring down our threshold, and I'm not adding a lot of limiter compression. Okay, perfect. So this is basically done. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste this over, and luckily I am basically finished the beat. But what I have to do now is I have to arrange it. So what I'm going to do is I'm also going to add a couple of effects because those are important. And there's a couple that I already know what I want, or there's a couple of effects that I'm going to choose that I'm already pretty comfortable with. So one of them is called a game effect. Yeah, this one right here. Just got to turn it down, it's too loud. Okay, I'm going to move this perk over. Okay, and that's basically that done. So now we've got 2 bars. Sorry, now we have 16 bars for my chorus. This is kind of going to be the, I guess more so the chorus. So the way I section out my beats is I've got my 16 bars here for the kind of intro / chorus. Hip hop tends to really get into things, so that's how I arrange it. So then I've kind of got like a little break going on here, and then I'm going to bring all of my instruments back, and then I put them here. Then I take the first 8 bars of my chorus, or whatever you want it to be, and then I put it at the front, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to warp it, and then I'm going to pitch it down 12 semitones, and then that is it. That is how I do a really basic arrangement, just because there's so many different ways that you can take a song, and you know, if you choose to purchase my beats, you can actually purchase the track outs, and then you can, you know, swap things in and out, and you know, create an arrangement that suits your song style. I mean, there is no, I would 100% recommend that you guys, if you're rappers, you know, you try different things out, and whatever works best for you in terms of arrangement is awesome. Like, you know, people like Kanye West have tried and experimented and have become legends because of that. You know, it's a lot of their success has come from doing things that are different. So I mean, I definitely recommend that. Anyways, so the beat is over. Let's listen back to it. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate it. It's my first video. So make sure you drop a like and subscribe. And if you want me to do another video, then tell me who you want me to cook up for, and I'll definitely do that. Thank you so much. This is Cillian. Cheers. Bye.